And on the other side, you have the guy running in New York, Mamdani, right? Okay, who's like a straight up communist. I mean, he is. He talks about, the things that communists say. I mean, he wants free grocery stores, free bus.
Bill Maher came out swinging at Zohran Mamdani with a level of heat that instantly turned the studio into a stage crackling with tension and sarcasm. The longtime comic hammered Mamdani's ultra-left message, joking that the lawmaker practically handed conservatives a ready-made campaign commercial without even realizing it. Every exaggerated promise and dreamy proposal was sliced apart with quick, sharp humor that kept the audience laughing and wincing at the same time. Nothing about Maher's takedown was subtle. It was fierce, relentless, and delivered with the speed of someone who has seen this movie too many times. Blink for a moment and the next punchline hits you. So honestly, grab your snack early because this exchange erupts from the first second and never slows down.
Who's the most popular politician on the left?
AOC? I don't know.
One of, but who's Bernie is
Bernie, yeah.
Bernie is, I mean, he's not a capitalist,
No, he's not, and he's also not president.
But
never would be.
But neither is Mamdani.
No, but he will, trust me, he will be featured in the campaign commercials.
They're going to feature people. They boogeyman everybody.
Yeah, but you don't have to boogeyman him. He does it to himself.
Maher also wasn't exaggerating. Republicans don't need to invent a frightening version of Zohran Mamdani when he already plays straight into that role every time he steps behind a microphone. With Mamdani appearing poised for a major mayoral breakthrough, critics warn his rise could become a gift for the GOP, signaling that Democrats are drifting deeper into an ideological world voters find disconnected from reality. Mamdani insists he's only a democratic socialist, but that reassurance mainly lands with people already cheering for him. The wider public, the ones who decide elections, aren't necessarily comforted, and Maher isn't buying his explanation either, because to him, Mamdani represents that idealistic left-wing vision that looks inspiring on paper, but instantly arms conservatives with punchlines and political ammunition.
This must be horrible for a guy like you, who you spent your whole life talking about how government tries to do too much, which it does, and spends too much. And here you have Trump, who is the Republican, who is aggrandizing more power than anybody, as we just talked about. And on the other side, you have the guy running in New York, Mamdani, right? Okay, who's like a straight up communist. I mean, he is. He talks about, the things that communists say. I mean, he wants free grocery stores, free buses.
I want him to win.
You want him to win?
Yeah.
On the surface, Mamdani's pitch shines like a polished utopian dream full of warm imagery and magazine-ready optimism. But the moment you pull on any thread, the shine fades, revealing the same cracks that experienced observers recognize from past socialist experiments that promised paradise and delivered disappointment. Supporters may swoon over the poetic language, yet for those who have watched history repeat itself, the whole thing feels like a replay of old political fantasies dressed up to look new. The wrapping is fresh, but the warnings underneath are the same ones people have been ignoring for generations.
I think every 20 years or so, we need every 20 years or so, we need a conspicuous, confined experiment with socialism so we can crack it up again. Socialist slogan used to be, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. The new socialist slogan is, trust us, this time it won't be a mess.
Those warnings exist for a reason. Socialist systems have collapsed so often that most people now view the ideology the way they view a burner they touched once, something you stay far away from. Younger idealists still get dazzled by talk of fairness and effortless stability, but the core issue isn't greed, it's human nature. People push forward when they have incentives, challenges, and the chance to build something of their own. Remove competition and flatten rewards, and the entire system begins to slow. Bureaucracy expands, efficiency shrinks, and frustration takes over. Over time, a system meant to create equality ends up creating shared disappointment instead. Mamdani's vision, filled with large-scale state control and endless public programs, looks noble on a glossy flyer, but without room for creativity and enterprise, everything stalls long before the dream becomes reality.
When the post-war Labour government in Britain was about to get started, one of their leading lights was a socialist named Nurian Bevan. He said, what could go wrong? He said, we have a nation bedded on coal, surrounded by fish. It would take an organizational genius to have a shortage of either. In 3 years, they had a shortage of both.
Britain's 20th century story is a perfect example. The country leaned heavily into socialist ideals promising fairness and shared wealth, but government-controlled industries slowly suffocated under endless red tape. Production dropped, costs soared, and by the 1970s, Britain was known as the sick man of Europe. The equality leaders championed ended up dragging nearly everyone down instead of lifting anyone up. Only after Margaret Thatcher introduced market-driven reforms did the country finally regain its energy and shake off the stagnation. Britain's experience remains a powerful reminder of how quickly grand socialist promises can unravel when put into practice.
Beyond saying that we're going to make a sanctuary city for LGBTQIA plus New Yorkers, beyond saying that we're going to establish an office of LGBTQIA plus affairs, is also that we're going to provide $65 million in funding for gender-affirming care, the same amount of funding that the federal government was threatened to pull out from local providers for that kind of.
Maher is worried that Zohran Mamdani could become a political trapdoor for Democrats, the kind that suddenly drops the party into trouble exactly when voters are already wary of dramatic left-leaning swings. Democrats lose moderates the moment they push too far, and a lot of voters who chose Donald Trump did so as a reaction to what they believed was progressive overreach, including emotional national battles over youth gender-affirming care. Mamdani appears ready to step right back into that firestorm, with critics saying he is tied to major private fundraising that aligns with controversial cultural issues. To Maher and to Democrats who value realism over ideological purity, Mamdani's agenda isn't bold. It's dangerous, offering Republicans an easy argument that the left has lost touch with everyday priorities.
He has attacked you personally and publicly like this.
He's not a socialist. He's a communist, okay? This is not a socialist, man. This is a communist.
I don't like to see a communist become mayor, I will tell you that.
I call him my little communist. He's my little communist mayor. We should never be in a position where we're talking about a communist.
We're going to end up with a communist mayor. It's not even believable, my beautiful New York. I think if a communist takes over New York City, I think that's a gift to the Republican Party.
Let's be honest. Trump doesn't need to portray Mamdani as extreme when Mamdani does it all himself. His proposals, including government-run grocery stores and free citywide transit, give the state massive control over daily life. Even people who appreciate ambitious ideas find themselves raising an eyebrow. Mamdani labels himself a democratic socialist, but the tone and structure of his policies mirror classic far-left playbooks. It fits perfectly into the claim that Democrats are inching toward full socialism. Whatever the intention, the platform looks and behaves exactly like something people have seen many times before. And as the saying goes, if it looks like a duck and sounds like a duck, you don't need a manual to figure out what it is.
This vision of democratic socialism, it's one that often comes back to what Martin Luther King said decades ago. A vision of, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. Here in New York City, wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, 1 in 4 are in poverty. 500,000 kids go to sleep hungry every night. It's untenable to live with this kind of a divide. We have to actually have a politics that puts working people.
Zoom in closer and Mamdani's message stops looking original. It's a repackaged version of old political themes dressed up with new buzzwords: fairness, equal opportunity, shared success, supported by emotional storytelling and selective statistics. But history shows that when the campaign noise fades and real governing begins, these romantic promises crack apart. Productivity slows, ambition fades, and innovation gets smothered. That isn't the future New York needs, and it isn't how America became strong. This country grew through competition, creativity, and the freedom to build, not through centrally managed sameness. Betting against what made America successful has never worked, and Maher sees the warning signs long before they hit the headlines.
I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Well, it wasn't so much his aunt as his dad's cousin, but, semantics. Douglas, is he ready to lead?
No, in absolutely no way is he ready to lead, and that was just another reminder of it. This is such a self-involved little narcissist with so little.
This kind of messaging is straight out of an old political handbook. Emotional stories crafted to generate sympathy and build fast loyalty. Democrats who excel at identity-driven narratives see Mamdani as the perfect fit. Symbolic, sentimental, and wrapped in language that sells him as a moral guide for the city. The political machine loves that. But people who look past the emotional packaging see something completely different. They know that dramatic stories don't equal strong leadership, and Mamdani's narrative, while inspiring to idealists, feels like theater, moving on the surface but hollow where substance should be.
But he even decides to turn the memory of 9/11 and the 3,000 Americans of that day into a story about his aunt and the subway. It's interesting, like so many things that this smarmy candidate does, he makes it about himself and it all turns out to be untrue anyway. It seems to the extent that he had any such aunt in question, she wasn't in New York at the time, and in any case didn't wear the headscarf.
Mamdani's uplifting origin story loses a lot of its shine when examined up close. But in deep blue New York, political loyalty often outweighs logic, so he still looks ready to glide into office even though the cracks are already showing. The real question isn't whether he wins, it's what happens when his campaign poetry collides with the gritty reality of running one of the most demanding cities in the world. Slogans are easy, governing New York is not. His rise doesn't feel like a step forward, it feels like a bright caution light warning of what may come next. Beneath the polished speeches sits a philosophy history has rarely rewarded, and Maher's alarm bells aren't ringing by accident. If Mamdani guides New York down that path, the effects won't be contained to the city, Fishan. They could reshape the national democratic brand. And with that, today's breakdown wraps up. If you found this useful, make sure to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more sharp, clear, no-nonsense coverage on the stories shaping our country, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from Jacob Reports. Your support helps the channel cut through the noise and bring you the real conversations that matter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next report.